Hi friends, welcome back to At Home with Holly. My name's Holly and I'm so glad that you're here with me today. So today we're going to be making some chicken broth. What happened was the crud hit my house. Olivia and I were not feeling good and we needed chicken broth. And that's when I realized I did not have nearly enough. So we're going to be restocking the shelf with our homemade chicken broth. And the only thing I had to make it was a frozen whole chicken. So I'm going to show you how I take a frozen whole chicken, turn it into a roasted chicken dinner that night, and then broth the next day. So come with me. I'm going to show you how we got here. And then, also today, while we're waiting for the broth to, we're going to take 2 loads in the pressure canner. And while that's going, I'm going to make some easy freezer meals for myself to be snacking on. So I'm going to use up some of the beef that we have in the freezer because we got to make room for all the produce that's going to be going in there in just a little bit because it's almost garden season. It's almost there. Anyway, let me show you how we got back here, friends. So from the freezer, I grabbed a bag of veggie scraps and shallots that I think these are celery tops and shallots that I keep for making broth. I grabbed 1 whole chicken. I grabbed some tortillas to make some yummy food. They were frozen. I get them from Azure Standard frozen. I grabbed 4 pounds of grass-fed, grass-finished ground beef. And I grabbed some steaks for dinner tonight, or this week too. So I got all of that and I put it in here and it's gonna defrost for us. So the original plan when I took all that stuff from the deep freezer and put it into the fridge was that it would have all day and then all night to defrost. And then plans changed and I wanted to make the roast chicken for dinner and then use the bones to make the broth the next day. So I was hoping the chicken was defrosted, but I was thinking it probably wasn't going to be. So I went ahead and made up a quick little herb mixture with just sage, thyme, salt, and pepper to get on the outside of the bird. Okay, so I have a whole frozen chicken. If it was thawed, I would take it out, cut out the backbone, lay it flat so it cooks evenly and quickly. But I don't think it's thawed enough for that. So I have some scissors. We'll open it up and see. So everything is still frozen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this cooking and then a half hour in, I'll take out the giblet bag. When I actually opened up the oven to take out that bag after a half hour, I ended up just spatchcocking the chicken. So, but either way, after half hours, you can take that bag out and keep going. I'm going to wash my hands real quick so that way I can touch the seasonings. Okay, so I'm going to have my left hand be the one that touches the chicken and the right hand be the one that touches all the clean things. So first we're going to use our garlic infused avocado oil because we made this together and it's delicious. So I'm going to do just a drizzle on this so I can coat it. I'm actually going to put a cookie rack, like a cooling rack, inside this pan so that airflow can get all the way around. You can totally cook. The oven is now preheated. You can totally cook this in the Instapot if you were just wanted like the shredded chicken, but I want like roasted chicken. And to get roasted chicken, you need to do that with some high heat for crispy skin. So higher heat, I guess I should say. You can cook a chicken in the Instapot and then take it out and brown it. I've done that. I just don't love the flavor as much. So I want this to be a 2-part situation. I want roast chicken and I also want the carcass because we are running low on chicken broth. I cook with pork and beef broth mostly, but we drink, especially when we're not feeling well, we drink the chicken broth mostly. So, need to get that restocked. Like I said, the bag inside, after about 30 minutes in the oven, just grab a pair of tongs and that'll come right out. And we'll go from there. I'll wash my hands and then I'll get this in the oven. This is after 30 minutes. I was going to just take the giblet bag out and then I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and get this thing flat and cooked a little bit quicker. Okay, so the backbone is flat. I cut down the backbone so it's flat, and I'm going to put it back in to finish cooking for the next 45 minutes or so. So just a quick chat here while I'm taking a minute to clean up. All this is in the oven, but what I do if I have 4 or 5 whole chickens that are not yet cooked is I will cut the backs out of them, lay them flat, season them, and then put them in a freezer bag and put them in the freezer so that they're like ready to go, even from frozen, already spatchcocked, already seasoned, ready to go. And then I have a second bag that has just the backs in it. And if I ever need to make a batch of broth, I can go ahead and just pull out that bag of chicken backs, essentially, and I can roast them or not roast them and get them in the pot to get them, making broth. But on this day, I just wanted to cut down the side of the back and leave it attached so that it would roast right along with the chicken for a little bit of extra flavor for my broth. Both ways are okay, but some days I'll do it one way, some days I'll do it the other. But on this day, we're going to roast the whole thing all together so that the back has a lot of extra roasted, yummy flavor in it to make our stock even better. So I'm going to go ahead and get my pot cleaned and ready for broth. Okay guys, so we have crispy skin, 165 internal temperature on the white and dark meat, thanks to spatchcocking it. Now we're going to let this rest for a little bit. We will have some yummy roast chicken for dinner. And then I will take all the leftovers and add it to the stock pot, and we'll get it going to make some delicious chicken stock. So roasted chicken dinner was a yummy success. And then when we were done eating, I went ahead and took a few minutes, took all of the meat off of the carcass and put it into a container for us to use for dinners and meals for the rest of the week. And then I took all of the bones and I put it in the stock pot, added my frozen celery and shallots, topped it off with water, added some salt, and got it on the stove ready to boil. Okay, I've got the heat on. Got our pot full. We've got the chicken bones at the bottom and then some celery and shallots on top. We're going to bring that up to a boil and then let it simmer all night. Okay, so I turned it down real low overnight, but it is cooking again this morning. It smells fantastic in here. There is a measure, I don't know if you guys can see it right now, but there's a measure on the back. We started off at 14 quarts and so far now we're down to 12, so it's gonna taste so yummy. So we'll let that keep going a little while longer. Okay, my friends, it has been a little less than 24 hours and I don't know if you can see, but that is sitting at 8 quarts with all the bones and stuff in there. So I'm thinking we probably got about 6 quarts, which is 12 pints, which is perfect. And I have tasted this and it tastes so yummy. So I'm going to get ahead and turn that off. I'm going to turn that off and let it cool for a little while so that I'm not burning myself when I splash. All right, so this has cooled down enough for us to scoop out all of the solids. I will also run it through a nutbag strainer, but This is just to get out all the big chunks. Now the jar says, the pot says 6 quarts. So we will run this 6 quarts through a nutbag strainer. I'm gonna grab that and get that set up. So you can totally strain your broth, not strain your broth. You can do however you would like. I sometimes do a broth that I don't strain at all and I just run it through a colander. Sometimes I do a broth where I take the time to run it through a nutbag to make it so there's no little sediment at the bottom and do what I call pretty broth. So this is definitely one of those pretty broth days, but totally not necessary. Just me doing the extra steps just to get it a little bit of a better product in the end. All right, we'll put a lid on this and put it in the fridge, so that the top fat layer, if there's a ton, there's not going to be a ton of fat, but so that the little bit of fat does solidify at the top, and then we can scrape it off and put it in our jars. Okay, so this has been in the fridge for actually like 3 days. So there's not much fat, but it has kind of solidified a little bit. Plus this was pretty like gelatinous. So I'm just going to skim off some of the fat from the top. The most of it's pretty much just awesome gelatinous thick broth. So I'm excited about that, but I'm going to get it into the jars and then we're going to get it into our pressure canner. And while that is canning, we are going to be making our beef yummy freezer meals. So I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer so you can see me strain this out. There's really not much to strain, but you're going to see me strain just a little bit off the top and then I'll put it in the jars. There's not a ton. All right, so we'll get this into the jars. So we're going to be going to 1-inch headspace on each of these jars, and then we'll get the jars cleaned up with some white vinegar, and we'll put fresh lids on, screw the bands on to finger tight, and then we'll get them in the pressure canner. So after we get all of these jars full, and we're going to make sure there's exactly 1-inch headspace on all of these jars, I am going to take a moment to make sure that I wipe down each of the rims with white vinegar. White vinegar we use to make sure it cuts through any of the fat or residue left on the edge of the jar so that you make sure you get a true clear seal so that your product is safe and shelf stable. Then I'm going to put brand new lids and clean bands on every single one of them, finger tight, and get it into the pressure canner. So we've got them loaded in our digital pressure canner, and we're going to select pressure can, 20 minutes. It's going to tell us to insert jars. We already did. And we have this set to vent, and it's going to do all the steps for us. It's going to vent for 10 minutes, and it's going to tell us to turn it from vent to can. And that's really the only thing we have to do besides press some buttons. And then it'll cool everything down. We'll take them out and put the next load in. Okay, so from the freezer, I got 4 pounds of grass-fed, grass-finished beef that I buy from a local farmer a quarter of a time. So I got 4 packages of ground beef, and I pulled some white flour tortillas from the freezer last night as well. So everything is defrosted and ready for us to work with it this morning while the canner is working for us. Okay, friends, so I have 4 pounds of ground beef and I don't want it to steam. So if I put it in like my smaller cast iron pan, it's basically going to steam, like the bottom will start to get brown and the top will just steam. And I want nice brown color on all the beef. So I'm going to put 4 pounds of ground beef in the biggest cast iron that I got. So we're going to do that. You know, I was just talking to Olivia, telling her what I was going to make today. And I have frozen chicken enchiladas. I have all kinds of stuff. And I think for a long time, I kept like saving the beef in my freezer, if that makes sense, because beef is traditionally so much more expensive than chicken. But since I buy it from the local farmer and I get it a quarter of time, I have, it's cheaper for me to eat grass-fed, grass-finished beef than it is for me to eat chicken, actually. And I have a lot of chicken, and we do eat chicken all the time, shredded chicken, roast chicken, all the things. But I actually prefer the taste of beef, especially in like enchiladas, tacos, soups. Like I prefer beef, ground beef, steak, you name it, I prefer it. So yeah, so I'm going to make, basically what I'm going to make is beef taquitos or burrito, whatever you want to call them. But I'm going to take beef seasoned like taco meat, maybe some onions, and I'm going to mix it up with some cheese and roll it in some tortillas. And then I'm going to flash freeze them. That way, however I want to eat them, I could microwave 1 or 2 of them and have them for lunch. I could put like 6 of them in a baking dish and put some enchilada sauce on them and turn them into enchiladas. I could do a queso sauce on top and have it be like chimneys, you know what I mean? Like I can do it all the way. So this is basically just a base taco seasoned beef rolled up so that I can use them how I want them. Yeah, so let's get started. Let's brown some beef. So my point in that whole spiel was I need to remind myself that I have beef that I need to use up. I do not need to save it. The reason that I purchase it at the price and the way that I do is to be able to use it. So, you know, free the beef from my freezer, basically, is what I'm trying to do here. So we're going to get 4 pounds of this used up in the yummiest way. And I'm excited about it. So put this meat in the pan and get it cooking up on the stove. I'm going to get this broken up just a little bit so that it has more contact with the bottom of the pan to get a nice crust. I'm going to salt and pepper this side. Actually, I'm going to lightly salt and pepper this side because I do have a taco blend that I'm going to put on and I don't want to over salt it, but I'm going to lightly salt it and pepper it just to get a little bit of seasoning started. And then I'll let it sit and get a nice brown color on it before I mess with it again. Okay, I have this 5-pound block of Monterey Jack organic cheese in my fridge, and I don't need to use it up because it's going to stay fresh till, September or something, but I am going to cut up about half of it, use it today, and the other half I will put into freezer bags in like 1-pound-ish portions so that I can have it for the next time we need it. And I don't feel like shredding 5 pounds of cheese by hand. I'm going to go ahead and zip it through my food processor really quickly, and we'll get this done. One of the things that I love buying from Azure Standard is their 5-pound blocks of cheese. I can't get this cheese, this quality cheese, organic, grass-fed, all the things from my local grocery store. So for this price, let alone at all. So I always buy 5-pound blocks of cheddar, Monterey, mozzarella, that's Monterey Jack, all those things. And I will take the time to shred it in the food processor, because if you buy the pre-shredded cheese from the store, it usually has like cornstarch or something in it that it doesn't really melt very well. And so I just shred it myself, put it in the freezer, and I always have it whenever I need it. So easy peasy. All right, it's beeping for us to go ahead and add, to turn this from vent to can, and push OK. Now it's going to seal up and pressure can for 20 minutes and then come down to temperature when it's done so we can add the new jars. So you can, this isn't really like a recipe that you have to follow. You could make this whatever flavor profile you wanted. I do want to add a jar of salsa to it just so it has some, you know, tomato, yummy, jalapeno, onion, and cilantro flavor. But you could, like, I could do this with mango salsa. I could do it with salsa verde. I could do it all the different flavors. But I think I'm just going to leave it like a plain salsa so that I can top it with, like I said, like a queso, one of the other salsas, or more red salsa or enchilada sauce. And I could just kind of go any of the ways. So I did pull out salsas, but I'm just going to use, I had some salsa from 2022 that I actually needed to use up. So I have about 4 jars of this left. So I'm going to pull 1 or 2 of these jars. And after we season the meat, I will go ahead and add this into the mixture for our filling. Okay, guys, so we've got our meat done. I was going to grab some onions, I was going to grab some onions or shallots or something, but I think since we're going to add the salsa and it's got that stuff in there, I think this is just fine. We're starting to get some really nice color. So I'm going to give it just another minute. Let it brown up just a little more. And then we'll season it. I've got some taco seasoning mix from Azure Standard. I usually make my own, but this was on sale a few months ago, so I grabbed some because I go through a lot of taco seasoning. So, but usually I just make my own with some paprika and cumin and coriander, garlic and onion powder, some salt, and some oregano. So, but we'll let this brown for 1 more minute and then add our seasonings and salsa in. All right, so here we are. We're going to add our taco seasoning. I'm sure there's a really exact way to measure this, but since we've got 4 pounds of meat, I'm basically going to add like a cup. I'll taste it, and then we'll go from there. All right, let's give this a taste. That's really good. All right, that's awesome. I'm going to add some salsa now till we get it to the right consistency. Okay, we've got this all mixed together. It is delicious. Yep, delicious. I'm going to turn off the heat, let this cool a little bit so that I can mix it with some fresh cilantro that we chopped and some of our cheese so that when we roll it up, it's not hot. And we're able to roll these little taquito type things up and get them put on a pan to put in the deep freezer. Okay, my friends, so we have got our room temperature-ish beef mixture. We've got some fresh cilantro. I love cilantro. If you don't, leave it out. Don't worry about it. I'm not in your kitchen, so don't worry about it. But I'm gonna get this mixed together because I like that fresh extra flavor whenever I can. And I'm going to get, oh gosh, this smells so good. I love the brightness that it adds. I know some people have the gene where it tastes like soap. I do not, thankfully. Thankfully. So what we're going to do is we're kind of going to get an assembly line going. And I'm going to, well, you'll see after the first one. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a tortilla. I'm going to scoop some of the meat into it. I'm going to sprinkle some cheese, roll it up, and put it on this baking sheet. And then I will take the sheet pan and put it into the oven. Not the oven. You guys, I need coffee. Put it into the freezer to flash freeze. So let's get started with the first one. Let's see. I'm going to get like a half cup scoop. Now, I thought about adding rice to these. I thought about doing them a lot of different ways, but I decided let's just stick like this. So this is a half cup. So I'm basically doing like 3/4 of a cup of beef taco mixture. And then I'll do a generous handful of cheese. And get these rolled up. Seam side down onto the baking tray. I'm going to get several of these made. Don't know how many it'll make, but I've got 20 tortillas out, and if it makes them all, awesome. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. So I'm going to get these rolled out, and then I'll meet you back here. If you can hear noises, it's the pressure canner still going strong this whole time. We're getting stuff done today, my friends. Okay. I'm going to get the rest of them made. Okay, my friends, we ended up with 3 poundish bags of Monterey Jack shredded. I've got 12 burritos, chimneys, burritos. I'm not sure what they really are, but I've got 12 of these ready to get flash frozen in the deep freezer. And then I had 2 that didn't fit on the pan, so I'm just going to throw these in the freezer, and these will be quick dinners for us this week. So I'm going to get these things put in the freezer where they belong, and then we'll go back to our jars that need to come out of the canner. But seriously, like, look how much we just got done today. I love that. Okay, my friend, first load is done. Oop, they're already starting to seal. Now we'll let these cool completely on this towel. And then tomorrow I will take off the rings and the seal will stay, the lid will stay on. I will wipe them down and they will go on the shelf, ready to be enjoyed. I'm going to put the next load in and then we should be ready to go. I just want to say thank you guys so much for spending time with me today as we made this delicious chicken broth and the yummy burrito taco chimney situations, but glad to have that food in my freezer. Glad that you were here with me. I want to say thank you so much for all the likes and the comments and the shares. I appreciate you guys so much. If you haven't yet subscribed, please consider subscribing, and I can't wait to see you guys next time. Bye, my friends.